What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the GINN podcast. That was fucking stressful. I really don't. I don't know. It's just so hard to record and like set up this shit because I don't fucking want to do it no more.
Yeah.
Weird. But yeah. What up, guys? If you're tuning in right now, yeah, we're in Airbnb. We're what's today's date? Today's date is the 27th of June. So we are Cedar Park, Lago Vista. I said that right.
I don't know.
About to be in Lake Travis in a couple days. So we figured we'd get an Airbnb for Mckinnley's birthday. Kelly, you want to tell him your birthday? Put your cash app down below.
Hell yeah. Send me some monies. No, my birthday's June 29th.
What's your sign?
You don't know my sign?
I know your sign, but
Tell him my sign. Let's see.
Sagittarius.
Fucking shit.
Sagittarius is at the end of the year.
Fuck no. That's my moon.
I think it's at the end of the year because I want to say my sister's.
That's my moon.
Yeah.
That's really what I associate myself with. But
Bill Muller's brownie.
You really don't know my sign?
Answer.
You should fucking know.
A Gemini.
I'm not a Gemini. You the two-faced one, baby.
I don't know what that is.
Anyways, no, I'm a Cancer. So yeah, little Cancer
I
baby.
fucking knew it.
I am a Cancer, but I don't really like resonate with Cancer unless like you're my family, my foes, Sagittarius. Yeah.
Okay.
My rising is Capricorn. Let me just tell you my birth chart real quick.
How do you figure out mine?
You have to know the time you were born and where you were born at.
That's why.
So like my sun is Cancer, my moon is Sagittarius, and my rising is Capricorn.
Mm.
That's the workaholic in me.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know how you know all this stuff, but I guess it's a girl thing, right?
No, some guys know. Just not you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also my boy Stefan's birthday too, 23rd. Yeah. So it just passed. So he's about to rent out Jesus, I got a fucking brownie on me. That over was a booger. Yeah, he's about to rent a boat on Lake Travis. So we're gonna go Saturday for about 4 hours in the morning to I want to say about 2:30.
Yeah.
2:30ish, 3 o'clock, something like that. And then Bam's fighting Saturday night, so we're about to watch that. It was gonna be dope too because Conor McGregor was supposed to fight too on UFC 303, I think it is. But yeah, you know how that went. But yeah,
where have you been?
No, where have you been?
Where have we been?
Shit, we've been struggling.
Crying.
Not in a bad way.
Crying and dying.
So
pun intended.
I mean, we get right into it if you want to.
Let's just tell us like.
So I was thinking.
The last pod was December.
Yeah, but I was thinking
6 months.
Hold on, let me talk. You interrupt me. Come on, what the fuck? I'm
Spit it out with your fucking brownie mouth.
Is the brownie's thick? Slim, thick with choke. What I was gonna say is that I can go into my version of what happened, and you can go into your point of view, and then we can just go from there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you can start off with like leading up. Let me fucking talk now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of lead them up to it. You know, I'm a good storyteller.
There's nothing to lead. We just get right into it.
No, you lead them up. I was feeling bad. I didn't want to go to the doctor. McKinley's right.
Anyways, so it's the second week of January.
Hold on, guys.
It was
it's about to get raw. It's about to be long. Grab your popcorn, grab a snack, get some water, because this is probably going to be one of the realest, rarest, most raw pods that he has released.
Yeah, hopefully I don't cry. Anyways, I second week of January, early 2024, I started feeling sick. It was started off with a sore throat. Thursday, I want to say it's Thursday, the January 11th, January 10th, one of those days. I had a sore throat and I didn't think nothing of it. Voice was just raspy, so I was like, just take medicine from just for sore throat, and eventually went away that next day, which was a Friday, the 11th, 12th, something like that. I think it's a 12th. So then I went. So then I went to work. Well, I woke up. I went to work, and I was just feeling like shit. Like I had a headache. I just felt sick. You know when you feel sick. So I did a deal. If you don't know, I'm a car salesman. I work at a Honda dealership. But I did a deal. It was a deposit. It was a reservation for a customer for a vehicle that was coming in. So it took maybe an hour, and then I texted my manager. I was like, "Yo, I feel like shit. Can I go home?" He was like, "Yeah, go get some rest." Didn't think nothing of it. And then I was like, "Man, I think me and you were texting, and
Yeah.
you told me to go to urgent care." So I went to urgent care. They
Oh,
tested me. They said
yeah.
I had the flu. Tested me for COVID. I didn't have COVID. So they
Yeah, you had the
give me
flu.
a steroid shot. So that night or that afternoon, they gave me a steroid shot. By the evening, nighttime, I felt good. Like I was like, yeah, let's like. I didn't feel sick anymore. Saturday morning when I woke up, it felt like my fucking chest was coming out of my body. Like I could hardly breathe, and it just felt so like I just felt 10 times worse than the day before. And I started coughing. I had a rescue inhaler, and from I guess if the biggest thing, and I should tell you up front, is I have asthma, and I've been dealing with asthma pretty much my whole life. I think when I was like in my teenage years, that's when I really found out that it was something that was bothering me. So I was taking my rescue inhaler damn near like every hour because I could not breathe, and it would go back to normal breathing wise, but it still felt like like
You
my
couldn't catch your
chest just
breath.
hurt so much, breathing hurt so much, laying down hurt so much, and I think towards the afternoon, I started coughing up blood, and luckily Mckinnley, I think you took the day off, right? So she took the day off, and we are just going back and forth about taking me to the emergency room, and then when I started coughing up blood, that's when um, I told myself like, okay, yeah. Well, first it was urgent care that she wanted me to go to again, or maybe I did. I don't remember. So we went to urgent care because I started coughing up blood. Went to urgent care. I don't even remember what they said. I could barely walk. I could barely
Yeah.
like see and hear. It was just weird. Um, so I guess they recommended me to go to the emergency room. So I went to emergency room, which is off of 151 near a Sea Road area. And I remember walking in, and then I remember going up to the desk, asking a couple questions as far as my breathing. Sat down for like 5 minutes, and then went into the back, and that was probably the fastest that I've ever been seen.
Yeah, I don't
I've
even
been to the
it,
emergency room before, um, and the previous,
I don't think it was even 5 minutes.
yeah, it was
It
like
was like we
it was
literally
quick,
sat down and then they called your
yeah.
name.
And from there, it's bits and pieces,
Yeah.
bits and pieces. I'm gonna keep going though. I don't mean to cut
Okay.
you off. So from there, I remember it's crazy because it's in and out. I remember some stuff as far as like the doctors, what they look like, their names, and I remember a nurse telling me that if it got to a point where um, this machine that I had, a CPAP, wasn't working, that they were gonna have to like put me in a induced coma, and it got to that point. So I I was so mad, like I remember shaking my head, and I remember saying fuck, and like the nurses was just trying to explain to me like, look, this is gonna help you. Like I know this is not what you want, but this is gonna like it's gonna heal your lungs. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. They told me it was gonna be 2 days. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. Give me the 2 days. Hopefully I'll fucking
You
come out
forgot.
better.
You
And
forgot.
two
Baby.
2 days led into 7.
You forgot you said you got a CPAP and you didn't say like what the 2 days what you were going to do.
Healed my lungs.
No, 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 baby. You got intubated.
Mm.
You forgot that part.
Induced coma.
Oh, yeah.
I did say it.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so the short notice though that I had pneumonia in my lungs. So the flu turned into ammonia, and I think that's why everything was happening the way it
Yeah.
was, and was happening so fast. And then the underlying factor of it was my asthma. So that's what really kind of just went downhill so fucking quick. Like it was just quick. Um, 7 days, 2 days turned into 7, and bits and pieces of me going into waking up in Bamsey and um yeah, man,
Yeah.
it was crazy time.
So before you get into like deeper into the story,
I was gonna let you talk
yeah,
anyways, just to go about what you want to say. But go
yeah,
ahead, babe.
like my side of the story, because you kind of remember, but you don't really remember.
I don't remember honestly.
Yeah. So, um, that Saturday, you like Friday, right? I came home from work, got you Chick-fil-A, walking, talking, playing the game because we have a PS5, playing his game, like walking. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to go to my friend's house to go like watch a movie. I would go to my store manager's house and we would hang out all the time. So
Forgot about that.
yeah. So you were feeling better. So I was like, okay, because I was like, I don't know, but you were like
Yeah,
good.
I was
You
good.
seemed good. So I was like, okay, cool. So I went there, like went back home. You were asleep, woke up and I told you, hey, I'm going to go to Pilates. Cause remember I signed up for Pilates.
Oh yeah,
That's when I just started like my membership. So
forgot about
I
that
said,
too.
hey, I'm going to go to Pilates. Like I'll be back in an hour. It's like a 30-minute thing. And he's like, okay. Went to Pilates, texted him, hey, I'm gonna get some food. Do you want something? Yes. Okay, cool. Went home.
I forgot about that too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Went home
Fuck.
and you couldn't even eat. Like you literally couldn't even eat the tacos that I had brought home. And I was like, So I had like, I was supposed to close that night. So I'm like cleaning in the house like early in the morning. And then I go into the room to check on you and you're like, I really don't feel good. And I was like, okay, I'm going to call out. And I never call out ever. And I'm like, I'm going to call out just because like I need to make sure that you're okay. Like I'm taking care of you.
Yeah.
And then I would go like back from the room to the thing and you were like burning up. And I had called my mom because I was like, what do I do? And she's like, you cannot have any blankets on you. So I remember I told you like no blankets on you. And you were like, well, how long? Like how long can I not have blankets on me? Your whole body was like in goosebumps.
Yeah.
And then you broke out in hives. Like your entire body broke out in hives.
Did I?
Yeah. Your entire body back. So then I said, okay, I was researching because of Benadryl, we take Benadryl, right? And I was like, well, he hasn't slept all night. So let me give him 2 Benadryls. And so I Googled, can you give somebody 2 Benadryls without like overdosing or whatever? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I gave you 2 Benadryls and I'm like, oh, hopefully this knocks you out, helps with like the hives. You never fell asleep. You texted me, can you please come in? And I was like, what's going on? And you were like, and your voice was just like
Gone.
non-existent. Like
Yeah.
I've never heard in my life that. And you said I had given you a Pedialyte because I went to the store and got you some medicine and stuff. And you're like, I think I'm like coughing up blood. And I was like, let me check. So I looked because there was like a trash bag next to you and it was like mucus,
Yeah.
but it was like mucus texture, but it was red. And I was like, is that from like the dye from the Pedialyte? So I had called my mom again and I'm like, what do I do? Like, and she's like, well, send me the picture. So I sent her a picture and she's like, it might be the red dye. And then you were like, I cannot breathe. And my mom was like, no, if he cannot breathe, like you need to take him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And so I said, we're going to go to the hospital. And you were like, no, I want to go to the urgent care that I just went to. And I was like, are you sure? So we get into the car. You could barely walk, like
Yeah, I
literally
remember.
couldn't even come out of the car, like whatever. Go to the urgent care and I had go up to the counter and I'm like, hey, like he was just here yesterday. He has the flu. Like he's throwing up blood, like show him a picture. And they were like, no, you need to go to the hospital. I felt so bad. So I take you back into the car and like literally you were wheezing. And I remember telling you, baby, like breathe through your nose. Cause it was like the Toy Story, like little wheezy thing.
Yeah.
You were like wheezing. And I was like, maybe it's just because he's breathing through his mouth. So I was like, breathe through your nose. And you were like, no, it's the same thing. And like you did that. And I was just like, never in my life have I ever heard someone breathe like that ever before. So we go to the hospital. Like you barely walk in and you can't even hold yourself up. Like you're literally on the counter, like holding yourself up because you can't even like stand.
Yeah.
And I tell the guy, I'm like, he's coughing up blood. And obviously like I had heard previously, like a lot of people go to the hospital, so you're probably gonna have a long wait. And I show him the picture of the blood you were coughing up. So we literally sit down and immediately your name was called. They do all of your like weight, whatever else you were doing, and then they asked like, how long have you been feeling that? And I'm replying everything. Like I'm literally talking because you cannot even talk.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. So like I'm speaking and saying everything like your weight, your height, like everything. I'm repeating it back to them because you can't even talk. So we get into the room, they check all of your oxygen levels and they're like, let's see what's going on with him. And we were in that room for like 10, 15 minutes. They come back and they said, so you're going to be admitted to the hospital tonight. And you were like, okay. And they said, your oxygen levels are way too low. You're not like allowed to leave. So we're just going to have you in here until like we get a bed ready for you. We're going to put you on the CPAP to try to bring your oxygen levels back up, and we'll go from there. We're going to put you on this for 24 hours. If it does not like work, then we need to look at like more severe like things. And so at this time, it's like 10. We've been in the like hospital in that room for like 5 hours. And I'm like, hey, I think we should text your mom. And you were like, no. I said, okay. So then I think it's like 9 o'clock. Like it's late and you're not getting better and you're coughing blood up. Like at this point, the first time it was like mucus, and the second time it's like straight, like as if I like cut my hand and squeezed it out, like straight like blood. And I had told the nurse like, hey, he's coughing blood. And she was like, oh, that's okay. Like, he's been coughing a lot. So it's probably just his lungs are irritated. And I was just like, that's
Bro.
literally. And so I hear her going down the hallway and she's like, he's coughing up like a lot of blood. And the guy goes, oh, that's not good. But it was a different story when she was talking to me, right? Like it literally pissed me off because it seemed like
just trying to keep you calm.
Yeah, but it like seemed like there was no urgency. They were like not looking at that. They were just really focused on your like oxygen levels.
Yeah.
Once I realized the severity of where it was going, I ended up reaching out to your mom. And you don't remember this at all because I remember talking to you at the hospital, but your aunt had came and there was only supposed to be one person in the room. So I had to switch out with your aunt and your mom throughout the night. And then I remember your mom had gone there like at midnight. And so I let her in the room and I just waited in the car until like 3, 4 in the morning. She finally came back out. She went to a hotel room and like I just laid in there and like slept in the room from like 4, 6, 7 o'clock. They were like constantly coming in like every like 15 minutes, like checking your oxygen levels. They did not increase at all. And you've been on the CPAP for about 17 hours already. And so about 7:30 in the morning, the doctor had came in and it was like, I can hear them talking amongst themselves and they're not really like talking to me or you. You're like incoherent, like you were just not there. And so, they said, we're going to go ahead and bring the ICU nurse in. We need to double check to see like what is the next step, because he obviously, we were going to put him on for 24 hours. This is hour 19 and you have not increased at all. So the ICU doctor comes in right away. He says, we need to, like, they're talking amongst themselves and he needs to be intubated.
Just the Middle Eastern guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I forgot his name.
I don't know either. There's so many doctors.
Like, you know what it was? It was Dr. Newcar.
How do you even remember that?
I bet you $1,000.
I'm not betting that, but okay.
It was Dr. Newcar.
And probably. So then he's like, we need to intubate. And
here, I'm gonna Google it while you talk.
And I'm just sitting there and I'm texting like my store manager, because again, we're really close. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're saying that they're gonna probably have to intubate him. And she's like, you need to make sure it's the last resort, because people who are not well, or they don't feel like they're just not doing good, once they get intubated, it could be a possibility that they can go into cardiac arrest. And like her uncle went in cardiac arrest when he was intubated and he passed away. So I was very scared. Like it's a pretty big procedure. I've never in my life had like witnessed that before. So the doctor's talking to Gilbert and he says, we need to intubate. And I asked him, okay, well, like when? And he said, right now. And in that moment, I just couldn't even, I was like, what? And he's talking and he's like asking Gilbert for like permission, because he needs permission, right, to start to do it. We're not married, so like I couldn't give my say. And so he asked him, can we intubate you? And he just looks at me. You just look at me and I'm just like, I can't make the decision for you, baby. Like, you know what I mean? They were like, we're just going to put you down for 2 days. We'll wake you up in 2 days. We just really want your lungs to rest. Because at this point, they had did a x-ray on his lungs and you could not see anything. It was completely white. Like it literally just looked like someone just put fog on the picture, because his lungs were so severe with pneumonia.
Can't find it. My bad.
So he had like probably one of the worst pneumonias. And so he like Gilbert looks at me and he like puts his head down and he said, fuck, really quiet. And then he just like shook his head yes. And so they're getting everything ready. They're bringing people down and I'm literally just like holding his hand. Well, I go out to the like hallway and they're asking me like your insurance questions and stuff like that. And I said, like, what do I do? Like, I'm so confused. Like, do I need to leave? Do I go to the waiting room? Like, I'm so confused. And she was like, I remember the nurse just being like, just hold his hand until they do the procedure. And I literally just didn't even understand like what was going on because again, I've never had to deal with that in my life. And so I remember asking you like, are you scared? And you had put your fingers up and you said a little bit. And I knew for a fact you were 100% scared. I would be scared, right? So I was trying so hard. And again, we just talked about my like sign. I'm a Cancer. You know, they're emotional, but like with your people, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just like really hard. So I'm holding your hand. And then they said like, okay, it's time. So I had to go in the hallway. And I remember right before I left, you had, because I asked, do you want me to tell your friends? Like, what do you want me to do? You had given me your phone and you pointed to your group chat. And I said, do you want me to tell them? And you just shook your head yes. And so I went into the hallway and Bobby called and I didn't know who it was. It just said Robert because I didn't know Bobby's name was Robert. And I was just bawling my eyes out. I was just crying and crying and crying. And I didn't hear anything or anything like that, but it was going on. And like, I called your mom and your mom was like, okay, they're doing it right now. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, well, where are you? Like, but nobody could come like to where I was at. And so I was just freaking out. I'm just like bawling my eyes out because I literally just was like, this is not happening. You know what I mean? Like, so finally it's done. Like, okay, you can go back in the room. And I just walk in the room and your shirt is completely cut open, like literally just slashed all the way down, like a vest in a sense. And you're just on the table with the tube through your throat and you're just, you know, you're intubated. And I'm just crying because I tried so hard not to cry in front of you because I really didn't want to scare you and I didn't want to put any pressure on you because I know you worry about me. And so I was trying to be so strong. So whenever you were like that, I was just crying and crying and crying. And the nurses like didn't know what to say to me, you know what I mean? Because like we're both really young. And so they just placed a tissue box right next to like this little desk that I was sitting at. And I'm just like wiping my tears and I'm still so confused. I'm like, where do I go? Do I like, cause they were like, there's no room. You're just waiting for like a ICU room. And I'm like, okay, well, do I follow them? And the nurses just realized that I was so like shocked, sad, crying. They were like, you can follow us to the hospitals, like in the elevator. So they bring you out, whatever. We're going to the elevator. They walk into the elevator. And they said, you know, we're just going to put him in his room and then you can come see him. And I'm like, okay. So I go in the elevator with you and you're just out. And the nurse walks me to the waiting room and he's like, this is where you're going to stay. They're just going to put him in his room. You can come visit him. And I'm just like sitting there by myself. It's like a dark room. Like the lights are off. I'm just sitting there all alone by myself. And I'm just like, is this happening? Like, what is happening right now? The first person I see turn the corner, weird enough, I see someone coming around the corner and it's Caesar. And I literally just like, he hugs me so tight and I'm just bawling my eyes out. That's probably, I only cried 2 times throughout the entire experience. And I was just crying so hard. And then that's whenever your mom came and Bobby came and, it was like hours going by that like I wasn't able to go to the room and I'm just like, what's going on? They were just going to put you in the room. Right. And at this point, it's like 2-3 hours that they're still putting you in the room and I don't know what's going on. So your mom goes to ask like, what's going on? And they're like, oh, they're still getting you situated. Like you can come back in like an hour. And I'm just sitting there like, repeating the story over and over and over again because more people were coming in and I just have to go through like the exact same thing. And at this point, this is when I realized that like my emotions just turn off and it's just like numb and I just go through autopilot and I'm just like re-saying like what happened, like reliving what just happened a couple of hours ago. And I remember Bobby being like, you need to eat because obviously like it had been 24 hours since I haven't eaten. And he's like, you need to eat some food. Can I get you a water? And I'm just like, no, I don't want anything. Obviously, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, numb. Like I'm not hungry, I'm not thirsty, I just like nothing. Um, and then we finally get to go into the room, and you have to put on like this gown. So it's like this like mesh gown. So we have to put on like this gown, this gloves, these masks.
Yeah.
We get into the room, and then I realized why it took as long as it did. And the nurse was just saying that you were not doing so great. Like you were doing like when they got you into the IC room and finally started like figuring out what was going on, like they had to kind of like reverse everything that had happened in the ER, because basically that like oxygen that you were getting was just like keeping you with afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And like they had to like run back everything and like redo everything just to get you to the place of like being like stable in a sense. So yeah, so then I'm just that we'll just you're out at this point, so I'll just continue with the story. Um
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So they had said like you were the worst person in the ICU. So like the ICU is like crazy scenarios, right? There's crazy stories. There's people in there who have been in accidents. There's people who are literally about on their deathbeds. And so I think the thing, as the first day went on, the visiting hours ended at 7. So every single day, the entire time you were in the ICU, I was like there the moment that they opened, and then there all the way up until like I was able to leave. And so, and the second day rolls around, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Like, what does he have? You were on a paralytic, so you were paralyzed completely, and you were intubated. So basically, what the paralytic did was allow like your organs just kind of just like stop, just to give your time, like your lungs time to like recuperate. You were prone, so you were like, that means that he was placed on his stomach. And to my knowledge, this was like to help like your lungs kind of gravity, like pull them down. And also too, with your back being at the top, like it was able to allow your lungs to kind of expand, because at this point, like your lungs were not working at all. Then we got notice that you had pneumonia, and that was caused on from like the flu. And then you had MRSA in your lungs. So MRSA is like a flesh eating bacteria, and it was literally eating your lung. So you had that in your blood. And so that's why we had to be gowned and everything. And it was to my knowledge that we had to be gowned for his health, but in reality, it was to prevent us from getting MRSA. And so it was just, crazy. There's so many people who had came, and like visited you. And it was just days and days and days. You got off of the paralytic like day 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, he's like doing great. You were like progressing. This was amazing. You were doing really great. And then it was just kind of like stagnant for 2 days. And I was like, okay, what's next? Because again, in my mind, I'm numb, and I'm literally just like, okay, we already beat something. We already went through a checkpoint. What's the next thing that we need to overcome? Like, what are we going to work on now? And I think the doctor's like, it's just a waiting game. And I think that like was the hardest thing to hear, because you were able to come off the paralytic. Like you were doing so well. Like, you know what I mean? You were prone, like it was going well. Your stats were well. Your oxygen levels were well. I was able to like literally understand everything that was going on. And again, I had no emotion. There were so many people coming in from your family, like visiting, that I had to literally reiterate everything. I was like basically the spokesperson for you. So everything that was going on, I was texting people. I had your phone. There was people constantly texting you. And like, so I had to like reply back and like tell the story multiple times. So at this point, I'm just like, there's so much going on. And we would just sit there, and like I remember like reading to you. Caesar had came in and read one of your books for you, and then we prayed over you. We prayed worship music over you, and then I got the bright idea to like, oh, like let me vlog for you, like what kind of, because if I was in that situation, I would kind of want to know what's going on with me, right? So this is like day 4 or whatever, and you're not getting any better. So I started vlogging, kind of going through talking about like what the doctors were saying. I think you're going to put a little bit of it in. And then one day I come in, and this is like day 6. And the nurse, and by the way, the nurses were all very different. So there would be one nurse who's like, oh, he's gonna be septic, like we really need to make sure he doesn't become septic, you know what I mean? The next day I come in and the nurse is like, oh, he's been septic, like he's already going through like that, and like his organs are like failing. And I'm like, and the entire time you don't realize they kept saying, oh, he's still very sick, like even whenever you got off the paralytic and there were so many things that I was looking forward to, they were like, he's still very sick. And in my mind, and your aunt was with me the entire time, we were just like, our brains could not wrap around how sick you were, right? Like they just kept saying, you're so sick. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, like I'm sick whenever I have the flu, like I stay home from work, or like, you know what I mean? Like, so it was never like, my brain could never fathom how sick you were. And I remember one of the nurses being like, it's been a crazy morning. He's literally the sickest person in this entire ICU. And I was just, it just hit me. And I'm like, this man is 27 years old and he's the worst case in here. Like, and so you just weren't getting better. You were kind of stagnant. And I was just like, I didn't know what direction was going on. You weren't getting better. You were just kind of there. And then sometimes too, like the ventilator would make certain noises, and like I would hear certain things, and I felt like the nurses were just like kind of nonchalant, like, oh, don't worry about that. And I'm just like, and me and your aunt were constantly like, well, why is his numbers here? Why is his blood pressure look like this? Why is his oxygen at like a 90? They would come in multiple times and like adjust the ventilator. They would bring you down, they would bring you up, they would do this, they would do that. And I'm just like, I don't understand. And sometimes like when you'd be coughing, it would look like because you had a tube in your throat, but you still had the pneumonia. So you were still coughing. And so it looked like you were just doing convulsions. Like your body was just like, and I remember you were just doing it for a long time. And I'm like, why is the nurse not coming in? Like it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Like your nurse is your nurse. It's not like in the hospital where one nurse has like 5 patients. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm like, where is this girl? And so I remember asking all of the questions that I needed to ask. Like I did not know anything about health. I was not anything, but I was determined to figure out what was going on. And then finally, right before you got transferred, I walked in that morning and your nurse was like, he's just been giving me such a hard time today. And I'm like, okay, like what's going on? And she was like, he had a coughing fit for 20 minutes straight. And I was like, he was coughing for 20 minutes straight. Okay. So they had upped your oxygen all the way back up. Like you were like back to zero. All of the progress that you had made, it was done. Like that wasn't even a thought anymore. Like you were back at square one. So I just kind of spent the day there. And then of course at 7:00, I had to leave. And at this point I was kind of nervous because they were talking about proning you again for the second time. And proning, obviously, if you don't know what it is, like your body is like you're on your stomach basically, and like your body was just so bruised because like you're just dead weight, and so like your toes were bruised. Obviously, we went through like things when you like woke up. They had no pads on you. Like I remember having to ask them to change your dressing because like it was just dirty. So there were so many things that I feel like they just weren't making it a priority. And even as I had asked one nurse, like, how long does the dressing need to be changed? Because like this hasn't been changed in 4 days. So like it should be changed like once a night if it's really bad, or every 2 days. And so at this point I'm just like, am I the nurse or are you the nurse? Like, should I be doing this? Because like I just felt like they didn't care. That last day I had left and I didn't really know what was going on. And your mom called and it was like 10:00, and your mom called, and again, I'm numb, no emotion, you know what I mean? Like sleep, no dreams, knocking out, waking up in the morning. And she had called me and she said, the hospital called me, and I just broke down. Like I literally just like was bawling my eyes out, because if you know, like the hospitals only call you when something so bad has happened. And so I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm not prepared. What's going to happen? Like what is she going to say? And so, she had said like that you basically, they couldn't do anything else for you. You know what I mean? Like you were not getting better. And at this point it's like day 7 of you being intubated. And that they don't know. However, there was this doctor who was So this doctor from BAMC, he doesn't work at Westover Hills. He picked up a shift, and this part of the story is like so surreal to me, and like this is why I'm a 1,000% in my beliefs. This doctor had picked up a shift at this hospital, and he said, give me the cases, like what's going on, like let's see. He was an ICU doctor in BAMC at Brooke Army Medical Center. He just picked up a shift. This was one of the shifts he picked up. He went to the ICU in Westover Hills, and he got Gilbert's case. He looked at Gilbert's case in his chart, and he said, this man is going to die in this hospital. He needs to come to my hospital. We need to do this procedure. So that's whenever his mom gets the call, whatever. So his mom calls me. She's telling me about the procedure, and it's called ECMO. So the thing about it is like there's these tubes that go into you, and basically it's like breathing for you. It's like an artificial lung or heart, depending on which part you need. So it does those two, the heart or the lungs. And I'm like, she's gonna make that decision. But she needed to like drive all the way back to the hospital to sign the papers to make the decision. And she's like, this is not the last option. Like they're saying like this hospital can no longer like do anything for you, but this new hospital is like ready to help you and everything like that. And so she was like, we're going to do it. And I was like, okay. And I just remember from 10:30 till 3:30 in the morning or 4:00 in the morning, because I was staying in the hotel with your sister because I didn't want to sleep alone, obviously. So I went into the hallway just because like I didn't want to be around like her kids. I didn't want to like influence. I was crying really bad. So I went to the stairwell, and I cried from 10:30 all the way up until 4:00 in the morning, just bawling my eyes out, so terrified. I remember texting your friends, and they were all like out. I mean, they were like, do you want us to meet you? Like it was literally like terrible. I was just in there crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. Finally, I was like, do I go to the hospital? Your aunt went to the hospital to meet up with your mom, and your aunt was like, no, get some sleep because there's nothing that's going to happen overnight. You know what I mean? Try to get sleep. I know you probably can't. Try to come here in the morning. So I go over there in the morning, and Caesar's there, like your friends are there. Stefan's there, your mom's there, like everyone's there. And I just am crying, and I'm just crying and crying and crying. And they were like, you can go see him before like we do this procedure. And I remember just like sitting there in there with you. And this is like the second time you were prone, and you're like prone on your stomach, obviously. And I go in there, and I'm like, I just need you to pull through. Like, and I remember just being like, I wish that and I was on the phone with your mom, and I'm like, can they do a transplant? Like, can I give him my lungs? Like, what can I do? Like, and I remember just being in that room with you and just being like, if I could breathe for you, I really would breathe for you, because like at this point, I pray that this procedure works. With any procedure, obviously there is like side effects, and like things can happen. So obviously like you can like die from the procedure, you know what I mean? Like all procedures. And so I'm just terrified. So I go see you for like 3 minutes. We go into there, and they said it was going to be an hour and a half procedure to get done. And so there was a certain song that I listened to the entire time, this entire like experience. I listened to it. It's called what's it called?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, I'll
link it down below.
Yeah, we'll link it down below. But this song was the only thing. And shout out Steph. Like, thank you so much for sending this song to me. This is the song. This is the only thing that really got me through this week. I listen to it every single day. Oh, it says God Turned It Around. That's a song. God Turned It Around, right? So Caesar's there, and he's praying, right? They go into the procedure, and it's like Ghostbusters. Literally, when the people come in and walk in, like I was like, oh my God, I think they're here. Steph was there, Alexis was there. So like shout out to everybody that was there. And then we see them, and they're just like all gowned up, like they just go in, and it was literally like Ghostbusters. I can't even tell you, like they were just like on a mission. They had this big machine, like they just walked in, they were so confident. They were just like waving, and I was like, okay, like, you know, like they know what they're doing, like it's gonna be okay. So Caesar says a quick prayer, and then I played the song God Turn It Around, and it's silent in the waiting room. It's just us, family and friends, and I'm just bawling my eyes out for this whole 4-minute song. Like I'm just crying and crying and crying. Caesar's crying, Stefan's crying, everyone's just crying. And then after the song ends, we kind of like bring our like pull ourselves together, and then I go downstairs with your aunt to go get some water. I go back upstairs, and the doctor comes out and he's like, okay, ready to go. Procedure's done. It was 30 minutes. It was a 30-minute procedure. He's like, all's good. We're going to clean him up. You can come see him. And I just looked at everybody and I was like, what? Like 30 minutes? And I was like, everything's okay? Like no complications? He was like, nope. We're going to go in and clean him up and you can come see him and then we're going to transfer him over. And the confidence that he had, I'm telling you, your entire family has said it, like the confidence that this man had just like relieved everybody. We all just felt like, wow, like literally like God was in the building with us in that moment. Like everything's going to be okay. This man is going to be okay. Like, so they cleaned you up and they were transferring you out and we were all going to like go see you because we like obviously wanted to see. And, they were just, all the nurses were just waving, like, yeah, giving us thumbs ups. Like I had like in that whole week of everything happening, that was like the sign of relief that I like needed. Like, oh my gosh, everything might be okay. Like everything's going to be okay. And so I transfer over, like me and your mom go into the room and they're getting you set up. And it's just so crazy because it like, this room is so beautiful. It's so big. There's so much light in it. Like it was literally like light at the end of the tunnel, even though you were still intubated. I didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know what the future like held. It was just like really refreshing to be like out of like a dungeon room and like a darkness. And it was basically like light. So again, this is like day 8. So this is like a Sunday that you were in the hospital. Monday comes around. Sunday night, I was staying with my friend because, again, at this point, I was staying with my friend. I didn't want to sleep alone still. This entire journey, I never slept alone. So I go to sleep and I have this dream, and never in the whole 7 days that you've been in the hospital did I ever have one dream. I have a dream and it's you. I walk into the hospital room and you're awake on your ventilator. And I remember asking people on BAMC, like they kept telling me like, oh, we think we're going to wake him up on Wednesday. And this is like Monday and you never woke up. And I'm like, is this getting pushed back? So I think at that point, they kind of just stopped telling me that they were going to wake you up because like you were not getting better. And so I remember asking at Westover Hills, like, can he be awake on his ventilator? And they were like, yeah, people do it all the time. We just don't want it because it's uncomfortable. And I'm like, and so I have this dream and I wake up and I text Caesar and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you would never know. Like I had this dream about Gilbert and like he's awake on his ventilator. Like, I don't know. And I think God's like trying to tell me something. So I remember, and at BAMC, it's a whole procedure. You have to go, like, you have to get in, you have to like do all this stuff. I get permission, like I press the button, they see who I am. I get permission to go into the room. I'm gowning up and your nurses are like, oh my gosh, hi, like, how's it going? And like, easy breezy. And I was like, hey, and they were like, he's been asking for you. And I was like, what? Like, you're joking. And they're like, yeah, he's awake. We woke him up this morning. And I was like, he's awake? Like day 2 at this hospital, like literally overnight, he's awake. And I was like, what do you mean he's awake? They're like, yeah, he's awake. Like, and he's been asking for you. And I'm like, they're like, obviously he can't talk because he's still like, with his, tube in his throat. But like, he's just been pointing and we were like, mom, dad, and he shook his head and they were like, girlfriend. And you had given a thumbs up. And so I walk into the room and like, you're just there awake and your eyes are open. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like this man is awake. And it's crazy because I'm so like our whole relationship I've been like into my like religion and like I really believe in God, and I promise you like that was God telling me like he's gonna be okay, like once you go in, like he's awake, like it's okay. And it was just so surreal just going in there and you were just like sitting there and you couldn't really move a lot because you still had the tube in your throat, but your eyes just like opened up when you had saw me. And I remember just holding your hands and you just squeezed it so tight. And that was literally day 2 of you being in that hospital. And like the rest, I mean, we can get into like the rest of the story, but that is basically that whole week.
Yeah.
And I
I'm over
literally
here
just
crying. Sorry, guys.
I just want to say, like,
Yeah.
in that entire time at Westover Hills, like, I promise you, I would not be like where I was without like that support from your family and your friends, and my family, and so many people praying. I really just want to give like a really good, really, really big thank you. And I know I've already said it before, but like Caesar, like all your friends, Stefan, like Bobby, like every single person, like thank you so much for being there for me in that moment, because I don't think I would have been like okay if I didn't have that support, like I know it was really hard being that person and like really having to like people I've never met in my entire life of your family. Like I met your dad and like, you know what I mean? Like really having to relay everything and just being that person of like, what's going on, messaging people. It was really hard. Like I'm a crybaby. I don't go anywhere by myself. I don't
Yeah.
like going to the grocery store by myself. I don't do anything by myself. And in that moment, God literally, I promise you gave me the strength that I never knew in my entire life that I could have. And I never felt alone. Like it was always support there. And especially with your aunt, she never left my side. So like, I don't think I would have been able to like do any of that without anybody of their support or anything like that.
First week of BAMC was hard. If you're
It,
not familiar with BAMC, it's a military hospital. I didn't know this until I think Mckinnley asked them, or maybe it was me. I don't remember, but I guess if a civilian is in a bad state, um, they tack them on, right? They
yeah.
give them
So
support.
it's, you can't just walk into it. Like
Yeah,
it's not like a regular hospital. You can just go in like, before you even get into the hospital, you have to have clearance. So
yeah,
like, you either are in the military and you go there, or like you're a civilian, but you have to be transferred in, and you have to be in critical condition
yeah.
to be transferred in. And again, since he was on this ECMO machine, they specialized in it. Like this is one of the hospitals that specialized in it. So the process of like, it's basically as a visitor, you're getting background checked to get even permission to visit.
Yeah,
So that if you have a record, if you have any felonies, if you have anything, you are not allowed to enter in. So thank gosh I'm a good girl, because I couldn't imagine you were in that hospital for about 3.5 weeks.
yeah,
So basically that first week, yeah, it was tough. You don't really remember anything. This man is literally, this man. And I said,
yeah,
no, baby, you can't hold your phone yet. Like you can. You're like, I'm like, what do you want
yeah.
to tell me? Like, and they had a board and you weren't able to write anything. And I
Yeah,
remember
that's
then,
that's what I was gonna say earlier. They gave me a board and um my penmanship wasn't there. Like I didn't. And
you couldn't pick up, you couldn't hold it,
I couldn't hold it. I couldn't
you
write.
couldn't write
I remember
anything.
I remember writing. It was all scribble.
Hmm.
Like it was scribble. Um,
You probably had so many things you wanted to say.
yeah, I was scared.
Yeah.
I was really scared. But it was a blur. Most of it was a blur. I mean, I didn't really remember things, or I didn't really catch on to things until like Wednesday. Like I think Wednesday when you broke it down to me,
Yeah.
and
He had
then
asked, like, where was he?
yeah, because I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
thought he was in Austin.
yeah. Well, that's a different. That's actually a different story. I think maybe in this second part we'll talk about that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I really thought I was in Austin, and I remember the nurse kept asking me where I was, and I didn't even tell him Austin. I told him Santa Rosa because I still thought that I was in Santa Rosa.
Hmm. You thought 2 days had
Yeah,
passed.
I thought it was 2 days, but it
Hmm.
was I don't know 7, 8, 9,
Yeah.
and it was yeah, Wednesday was a day that I think you kind of broke it down for me, and then that was probably the hardest day because that's
Yeah.
when we talked, and then that's the first day I saw my mom, and I mean everything went out the window at that point. I just
Yeah.
bawling, just crying and crying and crying. Um, yeah, I didn't even know what was wrong with me. I just woke up and
Yeah.
my hands were tied to the bed.
Yeah.
They
Cause
took
you
that
still had
off.
the tube in your throat.
Yeah, hands were tied to the bed, so they took that off. Had tubes coming out of my leg. So ECMO is tubes that basically cut incisions right here when you're
It's like,
growing, and they put the tubes.
hoses.
Yeah, they put the tubes inside of you, and it just like filters out your blood. Um, to add on to what McKinley said earlier, but yeah,
I don't
it
think
was very scary.
I didn't go into depth about anything until at least I understood you were kind of coherent. That first week had passed.
I wasn't coherent.
Yeah.
Even the day he told me. I mean, I understood, but
Yeah.
I still wasn't like there. I was heavily on drugs.
Yeah. He was on. Oh, so at this point, guys, like when he was at Westover Hills, he had, so each little, like machine that had medicine in it had held two. So it was 2, 4. He
Yeah.
had 2 poles at one point, almost 3 poles. So he was at 2, 4, 6. He had 6 things going into him at once at Westover Hills. They weren't feeding him. He didn't get fed for a good 4 days because they were trying to just get his oxygen levels to where they needed to be. So food at this point was like literally not not a thought. So he was waking up. He got extubated. So they had came in and they were like, "You want to get that tube out?" And he just like shook his head because he couldn't move. Still, he's still strapped to the bed. He's just like shaking his head. And at that point, you were still on heavy medication and like very very hard medication that you were on.
I think at one point they gave me fentanyl.
You were on fentanyl for a week. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, let's fucking do it.
And one of your
baby.
friends was like looking at the tube and was like, "Is that fentanyl?" And they were like, "It's not the street one." They were like, "This is for pain."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Does homie even feel pain? He's knocked the fuck out."
Yeah. I didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah. So you were on some heavy medication.
So
You get extubated.
yeah, day 3, you tell me everything, right?
Yeah.
I get extubated. I get the machine taken off. They put me on breathing tubes because they need them.
You also had a feeding tube in your nose.
Yeah, feeding tube in my nose. The breathing tube, and it's breathing tube when I'm talking about oxygen just thrown in your fucking lungs, just oxygen, high powered oxygen, just going non fucking stop. But it's helping me. It's keeping me alive, right? Like at that point, it taking it off for 2 or 3 seconds, I'm like it goes like I can feel it immediately. Like I remember having a nosebleed and we would have to count or we would have to like do it for a certain amount of time. And I was like, okay, put it back on, like I can't
because
fucking
you couldn't
breathe.
breathe. Yeah.
It was, I mean, I could breathe, but it was very minimum. Yeah, day 3. And then I think that's, those next 2 days are probably the hardest because I didn't go to sleep for the next 2 days.
Yeah,
like
you
I
didn't
think
sleep. You didn't realize. So I think the saddest thing for me too is like, okay, yes, you're awake. You know what I mean? But like you didn't know everything that was going on. So like you didn't know I had to leave.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember telling you like, I have to leave baby in an hour. And you were like, what?
Yeah.
Like, and I had said like, you know, there's visiting hours. Like I can't stay the night. I haven't been able to stay the night. And you were just like, gone. Like you just couldn't even fathom. And like I think leaving you while you were awake was one of the hardest things. Like I could leave you sleeping, you know what I mean? Like you didn't know, but like leaving you while you were awake was just so hard. Like I remember you crying like so hard and me crying and just like,
yeah, those first couple of days I didn't realize it. I mean, obviously I was going to sleep, but that I think when I started to get semi better, like on coherent wise, that Wednesday, and then I started to realize what was going on. It was tough. I remember
they were like loading him with medicine, like, and like anxiety medicine, which was giving him worse anxiety. Like the anxiety medicine was giving you more anxiety. And so like, I remember just always thinking like, and always telling them, because again, I'm still like your voice and being like, no, I don't want him to be on any hard medications that he's going to be needing. Like my biggest fear was you never had any, like you were never on anything before hospital. I did not want you to leave the hospital, like needing and relying on something that, you know, that you have been on.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell this quick story and then I need to use that, take a piss. So that Wednesday to Friday, I maybe got 5 hours of sleep. Like I physically remember turning on the TV, and it was if you're familiar with the San Antonio area, they have what is called a Cowboys breakfast for like I want to say a couple days a week. Um, and I remember that being on the news or the news being on there, and like I don't know for some odd reason, maybe it's because I used to watch it when I was younger, but like that was like my calming like I don't know, it just calmed me down. It just like something to look at. It was Cowboys breakfast. It was like it was something very, very familiar. But I remember watching that twice in a row. One day I woke up at first day I woke up at 4. And I stayed awake for an hour until 5 when the news came on. And the next day I woke up at 5 and then I turned it on. Then it was on again. And by that time it was Friday. And through those 2 days, I would get sleep during the day.
When I was there.
Yeah, during the day, but the naps, like I would my whole usually when I sleep, like a part like a leg, my arm would flinch and like when I'm tired or I don't when I'm about to go to sleep, my whole body was doing it.
Yeah.
Like it was weird. It was so
You
fucking
were so
weird.
exhausted
Yeah, I was
and
so
you weren't
exhausted,
sleeping.
but I was scared. It was
Yeah,
so
you were
much
scared.
anxiety.
You had so much
Like, I
anxiety.
was like in my head, I wasn't gonna wake up again. That's why I
Yeah.
didn't wanna go to sleep.
Yeah, there was so many things that you were like fighting. So like throughout the that week, like you told me like I'm scared. Like what
Yeah,
if I like go to sleep and like I don't wake up? And I remember having to reassure you like no, like there's again it's one-on-one nurses at this hospital. It was like this is like we were saying at a five-star resort. Like they were on it. They were like the
yeah.
best nurses ever. You wanna go pee?
Yeah, Imma go pee. Imma cut everything off real
Uh
quick.
yeah.
No,
Huh?
I gotta take everything off and switch the batteries.
Okay. Okay, baby. This is day 9. I look really busted, but it's raining outside and it's super cold, so let's not mind that. It's day 9 or yeah, day 9, I think. And great news. You're awake and everything's going good and they're thinking about taking you off the ventilator today and it's just the news that we needed. Like this is a miracle and I'm so happy that I was able to be here this morning with you and I cannot wait to have you home and continue fighting, continue to do what you're doing, and everybody is so happy. And we're gonna continue to pray for you, but this is the best news that we can get. You waking up and I've been by your side every single day from that moment that we entered into the hospital, and I'm never gonna leave your side, and I love you so much. So great news, great day.
Yeah, so day 4, well, not day 4, but, like, towards the end of the week, which was a Friday. I think this was the 20th or something.
So like the
I
beginning, yeah. So the beginning was January 13th. You entered into hospital. This is like a
No,
week
I'm just
later.
saying
Yeah, no, I'm
that
just
Friday,
yeah,
like, in Bamsey.
yeah. I just
Um,
wanted the people to know the 13th.
yeah,
Keep
they've
that
been
in
following
mind.
along.
Keep that in mind.
But she gives me my phone because at that point I'm
Yeah, you can
coherent, I'm
hold it.
understanding, I know what's going on, getting better, and I start texting my friends, and at first they didn't really believe me. They didn't think it was me, but it was me, obviously. But the reason why they didn't believe me is because most of the time McKinley was texting from my phone, so she had my phone most of the time. Well, not most of the time, all the time, the whole time.
Yeah, the whole time.
Um, but yeah, that was I think
So you had a feeding tube.
yeah.
They're coming in and out, like drawing your blood every like 2 hours. They are once you get the tube out, they do like a vocal check to see like
Oh
how your
yeah,
vocal cords are.
that
Like,
wasn't until the next week though.
yeah.
That was like Monday, Tuesday of the next week.
So you keep asking for your phone, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
no. And you're so stubborn. Just like when I told you to go to the doctor
yeah,
because you were feeling sick, you were like, no, whatever. And you like kept doing this, and I was like, no, you can't even hold. So I tried to give you the phone at one point, and you just couldn't hold it. And so then, when I don't think I gave you your phone the first week, did I?
yeah. Friday,
Maybe.
you did.
I don't remember. And then I took it back with me though, because I didn't want you to have it overnight. You know what I mean? Because you wouldn't have been sleeping, even though you still weren't sleeping. Like, so I took it back. I don't think I let you like keep it to stay the night, like, and have forever until the next week.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I just didn't want you to like read things. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I didn't give you your phone in the very beginning because number one, you couldn't hold it. But number two is just because like you had just woken up, like it
yeah.
was all a shock. I know for a fact you would have went and read all of the messages, everyone that came to see you, like
The
you,
videos.
the videos that I
Yeah,
had
yeah,
recorded. I didn't. You were not mentally in that right state of mind to read all of that again. So I kind of just like took it upon myself and didn't give it to you until it was like the right time. Until I finally told you exactly how long it had been, where you were at, what was going on, and until you kind of understood a little bit, then I was like, okay, like here's your phone. And actually though, like the second day that you had woken up, second or third day, I remember like you were so anxious. Like you had so much anxiety. You were so overwhelmed that I'm sitting in this little corner by myself, right? Because again, I was by your side every single minute of every hour. I'm sitting in the corner by myself. I had my headphones in. Like, you didn't want the TV on. You were so overwhelmed. So I just went to my own little corner. I put my headphones in to watch a show. And I remember you like, you couldn't talk. So you remember you would like go like this. And like, I went over there to you and you were like, can you leave? Like, but at this point, again, you can't speak. So you're not really speaking full things. I still have everybody and their moms like texting me about you. Oh my God, he's awake. Is he talking? Is he doing that?
Yeah.
So like, it's a lot for me as well. And I remember you saying like, can you leave? Like,
Yeah.
and I was just like, you want me to leave? Like, you want me to leave the room? And you were like, you shook your head yes. And I was like, okay. So at that point, I was like, not really offended because I like knew like you just had gone through a lot. Maybe you just wanted to be by yourself. But then I was just like sad. It was nothing against you. I didn't hold it against you. I was just sad because like I wanted to be there with you. You were finally awake and like you wanted me to leave.
I was just so anxious. Like
Yeah.
everything reminded me of home.
And that's what, and you had told me later.
And I wanted to be home so bad that
every time you looked at me.
That, and then your presence, like the situation I was in, it was like, well, fuck, why can't I be at home? Like this makes me feel like
and
just
you were
a
so
sense
worried
of home.
about me too.
Well, that too. Like I didn't want you to see me like that.
Yeah, you didn't also, and at this point, like you didn't know everything that I had, because this is 3 or 4 days. Like,
yeah, this was before you told me.
Yeah, you didn't know everything that I had already been through. So like again, me going from a person who doesn't want to go anywhere by myself, I'm not very like independent, to an extent, but like I rely on you for my emotions and stuff like that. So like you didn't want me to see you like that. You just like were scared if I was eating or not. Like you were just like, you were overwhelmed. You were going through so many things were going through your head. And so I remember just being like, yeah. So I took myself, went to the waiting room, and I remember it was like 3 or 4 hours. So I just sat out there. Yeah. And I was just on my show watching Netflix. And then I remember texting Rand and being like, is 3 or 4 hours like enough time for me to go back into the room? Because you didn't have your phone. You couldn't text me like, hey, come back in. And so I gave you some time, and then I went back in. I had had some lunch, went back in, and like you were feeling better. But I remember, and it's crazy too, because the only person, like the first person you wanted to see when you had woken up was me. Like you had asked for me and like you wanted me. And I remember like the third day when the doctors were coming and changing, and I was just like waiting in the corner where the mirror was. You like waved at me.
Yeah, I remember you were wearing.
Yeah, and yeah, you do.
Yeah. The same thing you wear every fucking day.
Yeah, I was rotating again because I was not at home. Yes, I was washing my clothes, but I rotated between 3 outfits literally. So like,
shit was funny.
His mom was like, "Are you still wearing the same sweater you wore from day one?" And I was like, "Yes, but they're washed." Like I was doing laundry every like 2 days every time I went home, back to like my friend's house.
Yeah.
But I remember you being like, my girlfriend, and like they were like doing like, you know what I mean, like doing things to you, and they were like, do you want her to come over here? And you were like, yes, like because you had such bad anxiety. So I remember, and I was holding your hand, and I remember just like the nurses going around me, and I felt so bad because I was like, do you want me to get out of your way? And they were like, no, you're there, like you're helping him more than I would help him, so like stay right there. And so I was like, okay. And you would just squeeze my hand, like you were just holding my hand.
Yeah, it was weird because at the whole week everything hurt. I couldn't it came to a point when it didn't come to a point. It was like the whole time I could barely lift my hands and to move my blanket. Like I was laying down obviously on the bed, and I had a cover, and I couldn't move it from my chest to my shoulders because it was so fucking cold. Like I had to call the nurse. Like I had to fucking beep them in, or you would do it for me. But that's how weak I was. Like I was talking about this the other day with one of the salesmen. But like it felt like I was a little boy again. Like I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't move. I literally had to learn how to walk again. Like nothing worked properly.
And you're such an independent person. Like before,
it's just
like you wouldn't even allow me to even like help you in anything in any certain way. You got it. You do everything by yourself. Like, and yeah, you're right. You couldn't do anything. The basic things you couldn't do. And I know that was literally like, not only were you like battling things in your mind about like your health, not being able to do that, but you couldn't even pick up your blanket. You couldn't even like,
I couldn't eat.
You couldn't do anything. So I had to do everything for you. And I knew that was like also hard on you, and you were also in your mind about that. Like, I can't even like pick my blanket up. So like, you were just going through so
Yeah,
much.
after that first week I gave out. Like I was just like, fuck it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Cause like for the first week, I was still like,
Stubborn.
yeah, I was still stubborn.
Yeah, you were so stubborn.
Like I didn't want to give in.
Hmm.
Like I was just like I couldn't do
You
anything.
couldn't do
Like
anything.
it didn't work. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just remember. I think that third day, Wednesday, Thursday was the day they came in and physical therapy came in and they kind of stood me up.
Yeah, you couldn't stand like you
Was it the first week or the second week?
second week.
Second week. Okay,
Hmm.
sorry.
Yeah,
Second
so
week.
going into the second week,
Yeah.
he still could not speak. He was still saying like one or two words. He wasn't saying sentences yet. Still kind of recovering. They did the vocal test. They made sure like, oh, can he had the feeding tube in his nose? Like, can he eat solids? Can he eat yogurt? Can he eat like milkshakes? Whatever. So gave you the A-OK for milkshakes. You couldn't even hold the cup. I
Yeah.
had to hold the water for you. Like,
Yeah,
and you couldn't do anything. So then that second week, PT came in, physical therapy came in, and they just wanted to check you out. At first, they didn't even stand you up. The first day, they just kind of rubbed your legs, massaged you, because it's so crazy. But this is like a week and a half. Your body actually stops, like, your body shuts down like 2-3 days after being in a hospital bed. Like, so the doctors were saying like your body and the functions, they kind of just like stop working because they think, oh, we don't need to work anymore.
Yeah.
So your muscles like gone, everything gone.
Muscles are the first to go.
It's always the first to go.
Yeah.
And again, you didn't eat. You didn't have any food in your system for 4 to 5 days. So
Yeah.
like you were just like, your body was just like eating it, all of the muscle, the fat, everything, you know what I mean? So like,
30 pounds.
they were like, they just picked your legs up just to see your mobility. Like they
Oh, yeah,
didn't
yeah.
even
I remember
move
that.
you. She
Oh, that
she
was
had
Monday,
you,
Tuesday.
yeah, she had you
I
do your
remember.
exercises where you would pick up your legs.
I remember that.
And then massage it. And then I was there every single day,
Yeah.
massaging your legs, massaging your feet, always rotating, moving your legs. And then I don't think you stood up until later
It
in
was
that
Wednesday.
week.
It was
Yeah.
Wednesday. But so I stood up Wednesday.
And you
And,
just stood up.
yeah, I
like
just stood up.
no
And-
movement,
and
just standing.
And they were holding me like basically they were just holding me from my arms like the rest.
4 nurses.
It was just 2 of them.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
2 of them, and then one was holding the. This one you took the picture. And then
There was
one
like
of them,
one in the back, 2 on the sides.
2 on the side, and then actually there was 4.
One in the front, one in the back,
and then holding
2
the
on side.
tubes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was
But-
always a person there for ECMO.
But when I stood up, it was so weird because they just like instantly
Your
like
knees gave out.
just 3 seconds was the most, and knees gave out, thighs like feet were tingling. It was just like nothing worked.
nothing.
Literally nothing worked. And as like I knew at that point, I was like, fuck, this is gonna take a while. Like a while. Like this is like, and I already
Yeah,
knew
the
my weight had
recovery.
changed. I felt it, I saw it. Cause going into there, I was 240, 245, and they were weighing me and I was like 205, 210. So I lost a lot of weight.
I remember you just like looking at your legs. And
Oh
you
yeah,
being
I
like,
saw them.
you said, oh my God, I lost so much weight. And I said, I didn't want to say anything because obviously
Yeah.
you, at this point, you had not seen what you looked like. Like, so this is like 2.5 weeks
Yeah.
and you had not seen like basically what was going on. I remember when they stood you up too, you were like, I want to face the mirror because you wanted to see yourself.
Oh yeah, so bad.
And they were like, you can't, like, you really can't. Like, maybe next week we can. You're like, okay. So I just took a picture of you so you can
Yeah.
kind of see. Once you saw that picture, I think in your mind, it clicked. Basically, like, again, everyone was telling me he's so sick. He's so sick. My brain just couldn't wrap it around.
Yeah.
Your brain just couldn't wrap it until you finally saw that picture of yourself and you were just like, oh my gosh. Like, I remember you just telling me like, that's what I look like. And I remember like saying, yeah. And you just cried. And
I was so emotional because we talked about it several times. I had worked so hard, like so fucking hard that whole year, 2023. Like I had did. Shout out to shout out to Sean because we had did some training and I felt good. I looked good, and after that, I wanted to bulk up, but I wanted to bulk up like just just big. Like I don't know. I just wanted to be big so bad, and I got there, and I was pushing weight like more than I've ever done before, and then A week later, gone.
Yeah.
Just gone. Like it was just a mind fuck. And it still is a mind fuck because I'm still going to the gym and like I'm nowhere near the weight that I was pushing because like I have to recuperate. But I think that first like those first couple weeks
Yeah.
was just it was a mindful like I because I couldn't even move, but I remember doing stretches in PT and like them lifting weights. This was like a little bit further down, like 3-4 weeks. Physical therapy was giving me weights 2 pounds,
It
and
was
I
hard.
couldn't even do a shoulder press, or I couldn't even like. And I was like, 2 weeks ago, I was fucking pushing like 60, 75 dumbbells shoulder press. Like,
Hmm.
what the fuck is this? I was mad. Like, I was like, I
Yeah.
was, I
You're
was, I was
frustrated.
really frustrated. Like, it just. But you know what's crazy?
Hmm.
I was so frustrated that it happened, but it's kind of like when you get in a car crash and you're going
Hmm.
somewhere, like, fuck, I couldn't go there.
Hmm.
Like, I'd rather have my life than the fucking muscles.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
that I
Yeah.
don't, I don't, like, I don't care anymore. It doesn't hurt as bad anymore.
Yeah.
But right there and then, I was like,
Accepting it,
yeah,
like accepting like defeat. And again, at this point, you still didn't realize that, like, and I don't know if I've ever said it, but like the doctors literally had said when you got to BAMC, like you would have died. So many doctors, even like doctors coming in, like it's saying
yeah, it
like,
was,
oh, you're gonna marry her because like they had said if I did not take you to that hospital that day, you would have died. Your heart, you had like your heart rate was insane because again that we didn't realize until we got to the hospital, it was pushing so much and it was pumping so much just to keep you afloat
yeah,
that you would have went into cardiac arrest, but since you already had the MRSA in your blood, you would have died.
yeah,
So if I did not take you to the hospital that Saturday, you would have died. You would not be sitting here right now.
yeah,
And it's so hard to wrap your mind around it. It's so hard to wrap one mind around like that, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, it was just insane. You couldn't
yeah.
do anything.
Everybody was calling me a miracle, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah, everyone
Like,
was like, oh, and it was literally like a gallery. People would come in,
yeah,
take pictures with him. Like they were so, oh my gosh, they were so excited to meet him again because the ECMO is not, it's not like
I
a
think it,
procedure yet. Like it's not like they're still testing it. It's still trials. It's still going through trials. And so like you are one of the success stories. So they were just like, oh my
yeah,
God, he's been doing so well on this. Like
but
like
quick,
guy
quick,
quick. Yeah, the guy that
like,
came in and like the doctor that recommended you coming in and like did the whole procedure came in, took a picture, asked you like, can I post this picture? Can I talk about your story? Because like
yeah,
again, it was not something. It's not a procedure again that is like certified 100%. They're still going through their testing and trials. And it literally came out in 2020 when COVID was around. That's when it first started. Like there's no other like backstories about it. They had said, but 2020 is when they started it out. So it was still like, oh my gosh, like this guy's doing so well. The guy next to you was on ECMO. He had passed away. You know what I mean? Like that was so bizarre. That was so scary. He had a neighbor next to him one day. And then the next day he was gone and he was on ECMO. And I was just like, in my mind, again, you still can't wrap around like your loved one. And I would always tell people like, yeah, like his friends and family, like my friend, shout out like Victoria, because like I was staying with her the entire time. It's sad for people you're around. Like, it's just like, if you know anybody who had
yeah,
passed away or is sick, like it's sad. But I'm telling you, it is so different when it's your person, like when it's your person in the hospital or like a mom, like, you know what I mean? Like your son, or whatever, like, you know what I mean? It is 100% different than just like knowing somebody being in the hospital because
well, because it hits home.
we went, no, I know. And I like went every single like 2 years sleeping with each other.
Oh
You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like right next to you, like every single night. And our relationship was not in a good place before you went into the hospital,
yeah,
like, and like, it's so crazy to say because I would never, ever, ever want to experience that ever again in my life. But like, there really is like beauty in experiences like this. Like, there's so many like wins and so many like positive things that had happened that we'll get into after like this experience had happened.
yeah,
That is so crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would never in a million years ever want you to experience that ever again in your life. But like, for us to find so many beautiful things in such a very tragic like event is like beautiful.
yeah. When I said quick, I don't mean like quick, like days. I mean, it took me a week. I'm sorry, it took me 2 weeks
Yeah.
to
So
get
he
off the
was at
machine.
BAMC for 3.5 weeks, constantly going to PT was coming every single day. And we would just be sitting there, just watching movies all day. Like, and I think it was so hard because we had so many conversations in there where you were like, I want to give up.
Yeah.
Like, and I never got to be emotional. I don't even think I like was able to like really feel the emotions until like I guess now talking about it, like and like getting emotional about it. But I remember having those conversations and you would just look at me and you would just be like, I want to give up. I don't want to do it anymore. Like,
That was me accepting it. It was me accepting it because I knew I had to restart everything. Like
mm-hmm.
it was gone. Like everything was gone. Like everything was out the window. And that was that conversation.
Yeah. And
That was
motivations, like
it
we,
was nothing. Like it was
you
just
just,
nothing. Like I, I didn't have anything. I didn't feel
mm-hmm.
like it was just I
You're like,
couldn't
why am I
I couldn't
here?
feel like
You didn't feel
uh,
blessed to be
no,
happy.
no, no.
Like,
I just I couldn't feel anything because there was just so much wrong with me. Like I would see this, I would feel the tubes. I couldn't move. Like it was just so many things wrong with me that
mm-hmm.
I needed something. Like I needed
Mm-hmm.
somebody to like just tell me that it was gonna be okay. And like that was the day where I wanted to like I wanted to pull all the tubes out. Like I wanted to give up like
Mm-hmm.
so bad. Like I just told myself, I said, look, just get yourself out. Like get me out, get me out, get me. Like I repeated it so many times that night before we had the conversation. I fell. Like it just fell. And I'm not too sure if you told my mom or how that conversation came about, but I think that night she came in too, and I was just like, it, I don't think I've ever seen. I think that was a conversation where she talked about her situation back in December, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is this is even crazier. Like, where does this stuff come from?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was really tough, and
Yeah.
I don't wish I don't wish any of that on anybody. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't because the just not even the physical part. I think the mentally part just by a mile fucks you over by a fucking mile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, it was hard. It was really hard. And I'm not. I'm the best one in my opinion to not give up on anything. To have the most motivation. To have the best discipline. I felt helpless. It was a helpless. It was a very helpless situation. But I said quit because it was everything was moving so fast. I was on it for 2 weeks, and it came to a point in time where it was time to take it off. And I think they were gonna do it one day, but they started like winding me down. I'm not sure on how the
Your
ECMO
oxygen.
machine,
He's
no,
talking.
the ECMO machine.
Oh yeah. So every day they would just kind of bring
Oh,
you
okay,
down a
bring
little
me
bit,
down as far as
and then they would
like,
do trials. Like, hey, like if we
but
turn the machine off, what would
okay,
it look
yes,
like?
but like bring it down to where my body is working, not the
Yeah.
machine.
So the machine basically is
Yeah.
breathing for him. Like that machine
Well,
is his lung. So when they were
well,
bringing it down, they wanted to see is his lungs capable because I forgot like to say this part, but like you were coughing up so much blood. You were
yeah,
coughing up like you had like a suction thing. When you were intubated, when you were in at the ICU at the first hospital, the doctor had told me like he's coughing up some black stuff and I think he's coughing up a part of his lung that had died. So at this point, that's when my mind's like, oh my gosh, like the MRSA was getting so bad in his blood. They kept testing him every 2 days to see if the MRSA was still there. It was still there.
yeah.
And they had said like he's coughing up dead particles of his lung that had died. And still to this day, I remember asking like, well, what's the percentage of the lung that is like not working? What's the percentage of the lung that, is dead? And they would never give me an answer, which I understand. Like, you know what I mean? You don't want to freak out the patient, but like it came to the part where like at BAMC, there was like certain things that they would say where I was just, it would get to my mind and I'm like, damn, like, yeah, he probably, we don't, I still to this day, we don't know how much lung he had. But they would say certain things where I was just like, oh. That's what it is, or oh, that's how bad it is. I remember after that picture was taken with the doctor,
Yeah.
your aunt was talking to him in the hallway, and she didn't say this because we didn't want to freak you out, but he was just like, he's probably going to go home with oxygen. And she had texted me about it because we didn't want to freak you out, because again, it's a mental thing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like we're gonna do better, we're gonna do better, we're gonna get there. But he had said like his lung is so bad and it was so like dead that he's gonna have to go home with an oxygen tank. And at that point, I was just like, in my mind, like I see you going through all of these things. I see them trying to wean you off the oxygen, but they can't. They can't do this. They can't do that. Like, and I'm just like, my like, I feel so bad for you, and it's so helpless because you can't do anything. But like, I was just like, when is this gonna end? Like, and then to finally be like, oh, he's gonna go to rehab, but then he's gonna go home with an oxygen tank, and I hear that, I was just like, I know what your life consists of. I couldn't imagine you having
Yeah.
to roll around an oxygen tank at 27 years old. So I was
I
just
keep
like,
saying 27, but I was 28, baby.
no, at BAMC you were 27. Your birthday was at the rehab center and that's when you turned 28.
I'm 29 right now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay though. You messed up the other day too.
Yesterday when I forgot.
Oh,
your
yeah,
date of
yesterday.
birth.
It's 28.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so procedure comes and they take off these tubes out of my legs, right? Long tubes, like
This is like week 3.
picture long tubes, and um, the best explanation I can give you is rebar in concrete. Whenever they're laying down concrete, there's rebar. It's like a bar, and it's like, I don't know, twirled. It looks twirled, but it looks like that, but it's flimsy. So that they take that and they just numb the areas as where the hose are. And they just numb it and then they take it out. So I'm seeing everything. Like I'm seeing blood, I'm seeing the hose, I'm seeing like everything. And I'm like, am I
Should
supposed
I
to be
be
seeing
out?
this, or am I supposed to like be like put to sleep? But I mean, it felt weird them taking it out, but it didn't hurt. I remember them doing the
They numbed
stitches.
you right.
You're not talking to the mic, baby.
They numbed you right.
Yeah, they numbed me, but I remember them doing the stitches, and they didn't numb me where they were doing one of the stitches, and I think it was a second loop, and I was like, no, you gotta. I said stop. I said you gotta put more, and he was like, okay. So he put more. He stopped, and then he went back again, like maybe like 2-3 minutes later, and I was just like, God damn, this is crazy. But
The needle was
it was
like,
like 4 or 5 swoops, and then he was done. And yeah, that was it. I think at that point my body was recovering. Um, so the ECMO machine just basically filters out your blood with the CO2. Because when you breathe in, it's oxygen. When you breathe out, it's carbon monoxide. But my blood was keeping in the carbon monoxide because my lungs weren't working properly.
Mhm.
So that's what the machine. That's one of the things the machine was doing.
and it's like,
So
there was like a dark tube
yeah,
that was like your dirty blood, and then it was pushing in new blood into
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so it's just constantly filtering it. Like there's a speed that they said, but I forgot what it is. But it's just constant, constant, constant. So I'm off that. Now the part is breathing.
And it took a while too. It took like again the 3 weeks to do the trials to get you off of ECMO. So
Yeah, it
now
was
you're
2
off
weeks.
of So now you're off of ECMO.
It was 2 weeks. Not
2
3.
weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was 2 weeks. Yeah, because they did it Sunday to Sunday, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Sundays. But so now it's oxygen. So they're basically trying to figure out my oxygen levels and keeping that because my lungs are still recovering. And I don't think I actually fully got winded down until I was leaving BAMC because
Mhm.
even at that I still needed to breathe.
You needed a
It was
lot of
so
oxygen.
hard to breathe. Um,
And then they bring you
but
down to a secondary. So like at this point, he's not critical anymore, and they don't really need him to be in the ICU. So they're like, we're
yeah,
gonna bring you down to another room.
because my breathing was getting better.
Yeah. So he was off ECMO. The only reason why you were in the ICU was on ECMO. You're not on the machine anymore. So they needed the room for somebody else. So they're like, we're gonna put you in another wing of the hospital. And this is and we're waiting to hear back from rehab center to see if he's gonna get admitted when there's an open room, if there's an open bed.
Yeah.
And so we go into this room and it's literally night and day. It's like literally a dungeon. And I remember that's the first time I started crying, and you looked at me and you were like, what's wrong, baby? And I was like, I just feel so bad. Like, It was like dark. There was no windows. Like
There's windows. It was just closed.
he has finally been able to go outside in the ICU because again, it's 1-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
They took you outside. You
Oh,
walked
yeah.
around the hallway for a little bit during PT.
Quick side story. They took me out in the recliner chair that I was sitting in, and
You were
they
in
took
that chair for like
they took the whole
time.
chair outside. Like picture recliner chair outside in the front of a
Yeah.
hotel. Like it was just the whole thing. Fucking machine, oxygen machine, and everything. Oh no, not was it oxygen machine?
Yeah, it was everything. The oxygen.
Oh yeah, the extra tank too.
The tank, the extra tank that I was
Yeah,
wheeling
yeah, yeah.
around.
Wild,
The
wild,
ECMO
wild.
machine. So you were all on it.
No, it wasn't ECMO. I was already off, or was I still on?
Oh no, you were off. Yeah.
It was just
Yeah,
just
it was
oxygen.
just the oxygen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went down to the second one, and I just felt so bad because it was just like night and day. Like we went from this beautiful big, room, and now we're in a 1-to-4 ratio.
It was pretty small. It was like 200 square feet.
It was small.
It was small.
And I had
Maybe
to
like
leave
100 square
him,
feet. It was
like, you know
small.
what I mean? In the ICU too. Like, every night we had basically the same nurses you would have. And he would ask, like, the visiting hours would end at 9:00, but he would ask, like, can my girlfriend please stay a little bit longer until I fall asleep? They were giving him these medications to help him like fall asleep. And so they were like, yeah, that's fine. So I remember I would stay there until like 11:30 at night until you finally went to bed, or was comfortable enough to like fall asleep, and then I would leave, and then I'd be up right and the next morning again. So at this time, when we transferred over, he didn't let me stay. He was like, no, you need to leave at 5. And I was just
5.
like, oh my gosh, like, I mean,
5.
9, sorry. He's like, you need to leave at 9. And I was just like, well, you know what I mean? It was just such a transition. And like, then I had to leave, and it was such a bad room.
Yeah, luckily it was only like a day or 2.
Yeah, then you get switched to another room the next day.
Yeah, it was a day and a half. They switched me like at fucking 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, okay, that's cool.
So and the room was better. So I was like, okay, no big deal. We're still waiting for you to get the rehab, and we're like, we really want the rehab that you can stay the night in, because at this point he was like, you can have somebody stay the night. And this is already a month that we have not been able to like stay together, stay the night.
It's like 3 weeks. It's like 2.
You were in BAMC for 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, and you were at Westover for a week. So it was already a month.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a month. I went into Christa Santa Rosa the 13th.
Yeah.
I got out of BAMC the 6th. It was like 3 weeks.
No, never.
It was 3 weeks. I'm telling you.
You were at the rehab for 3.5 weeks.
Huh?
You were in the rehab for 3.5 weeks.
I'm still talking about BAMC.
I know. That's where I got the 3.5 weeks from, the first rehab.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's like 7 hospitals. No, not really, but like, so okay, 3 weeks we haven't stayed the night together, and so we were waiting for this room. We get the room. Like, we're okay. Like, yes, you're getting transferred, and
best time of our lives.
And then I was like, okay. So then he gets transferred over, and we get into this rehab center, and it's the PAM one. And it was a pretty good, cool room. You know what I mean? It was a single room to himself. And that night, like, I didn't stay the first night. The second day I come back, and I'm like asking their nurse, like, do I got to sleep on a cot? Because like at this point I'm staying the night with him. Right. And she's like, most people sleep on a cot. And I'm like, I don't know what a cot is. So I'm thinking it's like something, like a little bed. No, I guess it's just like literally a springboard.
And they bring you the recliner.
Yeah. So then I asked the nurse, I was like, is there anything else? And she's like, let me go look. Like, because again, there's this hospital, there's so many people who could stay the night. And so she goes and she's looking in every room. She's like, I can't find one, but I'm going to continue looking. And I'm like, okay. And I'm really stressing out at this point. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to have to sleep on this recliner, which doesn't even go back all the way. Like, oh my God, this is going to be, I'm going to have to sleep on this thing for I don't know how long. And then she comes in with this chair bed and she's like, I got you one. And I was like, hell yeah. So like I slept on that for the 3 weeks that we were able to. I think that was probably the best experience ever in this entire experience is just because we were able to stay with each other.
I was able to sleep.
You were finally sleeping. You were eating. Like, we were able to eat out, not fast food. This is where I gained all of the weights. You gained all the weight back. We were eating fast food. playing video games, and it was just relaxing basically. So the only thing that you were really focusing on again was the oxygen in your
So oxygen,
breathing,
because I was 100%. And my
weaning
heart
you
rate at
down.
this, I think through the whole time, even to this point, was still high. And I was resting and it was still like 120, 130
130 resting.
resting, which is like you're running basically at that
hmm
point when your heart rate is going that. But I
And the
was
doctors are
resting.
like, "Why is it so high?
Yeah.
Do you have like, are you? Do you normally have high
Yeah.
like heart rate?" And I'm like, "No. Since he's been in the hospital, he's been sitting at a
Yeah.
130." And everyone would just be like, "Oh my gosh,
Like
like
no
you
one knew what was going on.
no." And they're like, "Well, do you feel it?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Wow, you're so lucky that like you don't feel that because
Yeah.
like it was insane because you were sitting at literally just sitting there, not doing anything, 130, which is insane." Um, and you would just take your naps. I
Hell
played
yeah.
my little game,
You rather
watch
there's
movies,
when
and
I
I
say there was a fucking 15-inch TV on the damn wall that you could barely fucking see, and it
it
was
was
high up.
so
Like it was like 5 feet,
literally
six
at the
feet.
top
Like
of
it
like
was,
of the ceiling, so hard to see. I'm blind, by the way. I literally couldn't see.
yeah,
And just living like just being grateful that we were just be able to sleep next to each other. I remember you remember you telling me like on this bed, you're like, "Can you push it down a little bit so I can see you?" Because like,
yeah,
and this entire time like that you were in the hospital, like you're crying every night that I'm leaving. I'm crying every night that I'm leaving, because it's just like fuck, like when are we gonna be able
yeah,
to like leave this place and like be with each other and like yeah, I remember you texting me in the morning. I would order you breakfast in the morning. I would call and order it for you. And again, you still couldn't eat, like feed yourself. So I would have to be there early in the morning to feed you. And I would call it in on my way and you'd be like, "I miss you so much. Like, please come, like, hurry up." Like, and even whenever I would go like to eat lunch downstairs in the cafeteria because I couldn't eat in that room, you'd be like, "Are you coming back?"
I don't
And it
remember
was
that.
so cute. Yeah. Every time I would be like, "Okay, baby, I'm going to go eat real quick." And you're like, "Okay, will you please come back? Will you please hurry?" And I was just like,
Yeah,
"Yes."
I was
And you told the nurse, tell him what you told the nurse.
what nurse?
Laura.
No,
Yes.
I'm shy in front of the camera.
No, say it.
Uh, which part?
Okay, so I wasn't there. I
Nah,
was
just
gonna go
kidding. I
get you
know
the
it.
fan. Tell him.
I
Tell
just
him.
told the nurse that I was gonna marry her. Well, because the nurse asked me if she was the one, and I said, or maybe I
The
told her.
nurse, you were just talking about me.
Yeah,
And you were like, "She's the one." And she's like, "Well, how do you know she's the one?"
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I told her, but I was going through a tough time. I don't know if I. Nah, actually,
And you said what? You were gonna what?
I'll marry you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that was a cool conversation with her because this was like at 10, 11. I think you had left. And I don't
hmm
remember what was happening, but we had like a fucking 10, 15 minute conversation about like traveling. And then we talked
Yeah.
about you towards the end. I don't know. It was pretty crazy.
She was really cool. She was a really, really great nurse
Yeah, she was cool. So we did 3 weeks there.
at the rehab.
And then we did another
And he's going
weekend.
to physical therapy and occupational therapy at this
Oh, yeah.
point. So
But I'm still not moving as like
he's still not.
I'm honestly using a fucking walker.
That's when he talks about the 2 pounds. Like they're having him do exercises, and he's just
Oh
like
yeah.
not getting it. Like it's hard still.
In a wheelchair
They're
being brought in.
weaning him off. The last week of him being in this rehab, he's finally able to shower. Like so, mind you, he's been bedridden. I've been bathing him. I'm the nurse. Like
But it's not even bathing, it's like baby
like a
wipes.
sponge. It's like a sponge bath, but without the sponge.
Oh,
It's
okay,
literally
yeah.
like wipes. Yeah. So they're like hospital grade wipes that you just wipe. So I'm there wiping,
Everywhere.
bathing him.
And when I say everywhere, front, back,
That was
up,
my
down,
baby.
right,
I'm telling
left.
you, that was my newborn baby. I was bathing him, cleaning
Yeah.
him, wiping him, and anything that you needed. Brushing his teeth. I was doing everything. That he was my newborn baby that I was
For
literally doing,
sure.
changing everything. And then you finally were able to get an extension cord for your oxygen. You took your first shower, and I remember you just being like, close the curtain, and you just sat there and you just embraced
For like
the
5 minutes.
water. Yeah, like you were just like sitting there, like,
I was crying.
yeah,
I was crying in the fucking shower. It felt so good. Like I was like, this is what it feels like to take a fucking shower, man. it felt so good, man. I hadn't had a haircut. My beard was fucking damn near like it was
Yeah,
so
and we
long.
like I brought the razor, we like
Yeah.
trimmed everything, like
When I
um
say everything, I mean everything.
there's nothing like this is another reason why like I say like it brought us so much closer because
Yeah.
before you would never like to do anything in front of me. Like you would go outside and the whole like year and a half of us living together, never once did you fart in front of me.
That's funny
After
as
the
fuck.
hospital, open gates, open everything. Like
Wow, you were there most of the time. What was I gonna do? Fucking keep it in?
so now like you're a lot more comfortable and you'll do that in front of me. But like I was there. I was your nurse. And while we were in this rehab center, like his nurses didn't even come in because they knew that I had everything. Like
Well,
they'd
that
be like,
too.
"You good?" They would give him his meds. Like
Well, that too, and they knew that one, I was young, and I knew like I wasn't old and needed help, like most of the people that were in the rehab hospital. And then two, I was getting better. The only thing that was I was there for was just oxygen.
yeah.
As long as the oxygen was getting better, then they didn't need to be there,
So the
or
second
I didn't
day,
need to be there.
this or the first day, night that we were there, all you hear is help.
When?
The first night,
Oh
and
yeah, 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 the
you were like,
guy.
babe, listen to that, and I don't get scared. And I was like, what? Because I was coming back with the food. He was like, help, I need help.
There's another
There's literally
patient.
old people just yelling help, and I'm asking the nurses.
Yeah.
I asked them, I'm like, what are they yelling for? They're like, they need the fucking remote.
Yeah.
they
They
wanted
didn't
some
say it like
water.
that, but
Yeah, like they want some water. They just need the remote. And sometimes that they're the like people who cry wolf. So sometimes when they're yelling help, it's not like serious. So they'll be yelling for like 15 minutes. Like
yeah, yeah. Well, it's because we have a button, right, that you press and then like alerts the nurse. So them yelling like that, the nurses
they're
come
like,
faster than pushing the
sir,
button. So
you
that's
have
why
a
they do
button.
that.
Why aren't you pressing it? He's like, well, if I yell, you'll come faster.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, so you're in there for about 3.5 weeks, and then they're like, you're not. We're like really hopeful that you're gonna go home after that because in the very beginning they're like, if you do really great here, like you can go home, and we're like, this
yeah.
is the third hospital at this point. Like I can't. We want to go home. So you're still not there. They wean you off of the oxygen just a little bit. You're barely on it. You're doing a lot better, but your strength is not there. Like you
Yeah.
still can't dress yourself. So they finally remove you off the oxygen, and you still cannot like physically get up and shower by yourself. So they're like, you got to go to another rehab center.
Well, that was my decision. It wasn't theirs. I could have gone home.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but that was my decision.
yeah, because you weren't like a fool.
Yeah, I didn't want to go home, and I was scared I wasn't gonna do anything.
Yeah.
So, and one, I didn't know what to do. So I was just like, okay, let me go to this rehab hospital. Let me see what they do, and let me see how they, like what type of stretches, because I think that's what they were mostly going to do. What type of stretches, what type of exercises they were going to do, and then I'll get a feel for that, and then I'll go home. So we went to the next step, which is the final rehab hospital,
Yeah.
and that was just straight physical therapy,
Occupational
breakfast.
therapy, 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours, hour and a half occupational, hour and a half
PT.
PT.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, I got better every single
And
day.
let's talk about your night one,
Night one.
your first night there.
Oh, it was just a bad experience. I had basically
A roommate. So
a,
at this
a
point,
bad roommate.
it's a shared room, and I can no longer say the night.
Yeah, it was a shared room by a fucking curtain, and the
A
guy
curtain.
was. He was definitely older, and I'm not sure why he was in there, but he had the TV loud. Lights were on,
Blaring the TV.
and I didn't go to sleep at all that night until like I think the total time was like an hour or 2 hours, but it wasn't until like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember texting Mckinnley like in the middle of the night. I think it was like at 5 o'clock, and just telling her like, please, like
Be
get
my
this man
voice.
out of the room, because like the light was on till 12 until I told him something. The TV was on all
He
night.
like left the room.
Yeah,
He's in a wheelchair, so he rolls back in like
yeah,
at whatever time, turns the TV back on.
yeah. Well, we're skipping
Oh.
steps, but he yeah, he turns the lights off, and then I
He leaves.
yeah, he leaves, and then TV's still on, so I turn the TV off, And then he
Well, you asked
comes,
the nurse, you're like, "Can you turn that TV
yeah,
off?"
yeah, because the nurses come to me. So I was like, "Can you turn the TV off?" So they're like, "Yeah." And then I asked the nurse, I was like, "Where did he go?" He was like, "Oh, he probably just went to the front." And he's in a wheelchair, so he's like strolling out the damn room in a wheelchair. And he comes back, turns the TV back on. This is 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Blaring.
Luckily, yeah, blaring. Luckily, it's not the fucking light. So I'm like, this has got to be the worst fucking experience. Still can't do anything. Still can barely walk. I mean, it's a lot better now. It's towards the end, but yeah, we ended up getting the motherfucker removed from the room.
Yeah, he was like, so we slept on the
Switched, not
phone that
removed.
night. Yeah.
Switched.
We would sleep on the phone because I remember again just bawling my eyes out. Like I was able to sleep with him and now I'm not being able to. And it's just like so exhausting at this point. This is like February, like the middle the end of
Yeah,
February, and like I'm just like, when is this gonna end? Like I just want to be with you. I just want to be at home. And I remember you crying and like again, like you're not, you know what I mean, that you're not like that type of person. So like just seeing you like that just made me so sad. I was sad. We were crying, and then I remember we slept on the phone, and you texted me like, please be my voice. Like I really need you to like get me moved, get him moved.
yeah,
Like I need sleep. And so the next day I was just very nice to the physical therapy. And I was just like, hey, like he can't sleep, you know, like this is a place for recovery and
yeah,
like we're paying for this. Cause again, like he had said, it was optional. They were like, you don't have to go. It's kind of optional. So we're like paying for this with our like insurance and everything like that. And I'm like, we want to be at the best care. And so I said, if we're not able to get this here, then I'm going to go somewhere else. Like
yeah,
I understand like that he has to be in a shared room, but is there any possibility? Like I want to talk to, like the main person, main nurse. And so basically I just told that main nurse like, hey, like I know like he has to be in a shared room. And she's like, well, I can't promise you like the next person's going to be calm or anything. And I said, I understand that. But like at this point, like he didn't sleep at all last night. And if that's the case, like, again, we're paying
yeah,
for it and like we're going to pay for the best care possible. How is he supposed to get up and do 3 hours of physical therapy if he can't even sleep?
yeah.
And so she was like, okay. So they transferred him out. And thankfully you got someone that was quiet,
Quiet, not a
quiet,
word.
not a
Felt
word.
bad
Poor
for
guy.
the guy, but
Mm-hmm.
quiet. Yeah, that was probably the worst, one of the worst experiences. That was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It was very, very bad. Had that guy, the second guy, for maybe 2 days, and
Yeah.
then they transferred him out and then
Finally,
gave me the full
you
room
got a private room, and I was able to stay the night again,
for like
3
3 days.
days, and then they said, "Hey, good news! Your insurance covered 7 days." At the very beginning, they're like, "Insurance is covering 7 days. That's all you have.
Yeah,
We're gonna try to get you out." By day 6 or 7, you were pretty good. You were pretty independent.
yeah,
In a sense, you were not at 100%, but you were a little bit still independent of getting up to go to
yeah.
the bathroom by yourself and stuff like that.
Going in the bathroom,
So brushing your
brush my
teeth,
teeth, showering
yeah.
by myself, walking without the
Mm-hmm.
walker,
Yeah.
walking full distances without stopping and sitting down. Yeah, almost I would say like 70% maybe.
Yep. And they had said, like, hey, good
Mm,
news, you're good to go.
yeah,
And oh my gosh, we were so relieved.
that was a good day. Felt like I was getting released from jail or something. Pack my bags, got my pillow,
Yeah, we were packing your bags, all the snacks that we had.
got my
And
Oreos.
yeah,
What a time.
you went, and then you came home, you went to your aunt's for like the weekend
Yeah.
just because I was working. And then,
I was homesick.
yeah, you wanted to come. I know.
I didn't realize I was gonna be homesick, but I was fucking homesick. I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go home. So did 3 days at my aunt's house, and then by that time it was like March 2nd, March 3rd, and I spent the whole month of March just,
At home.
yeah, more
And
physical therapy.
we
The
went
full full month of March.
twice a week.
Yeah, twice a week I would walk with McKinley to walk the dog. I would stretch a lot.
Yeah, we would stretch.
I would yeah, what else would I do? I don't really
Yeah, we just
remember.
made sure
I would play my PS5 or her
yeah.
PS5. I would
I took the week off, so like that entire time I was on an LOA. And then once you transferred to like the rehab, the second rehab, the last hospital, I went back to work, and I had when you came back home, I took that week off so I could just kind of get you acclimated back into like the home
Yeah.
life. And yeah, we would walk him. And I remember it's so crazy. You couldn't even like one, you were really slow walking, and number two, you couldn't even walk and talk.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't walk
You
and
couldn't
talk.
walk, talk.
I would
Like
have to focus on breathing.
yep, you would have to, and like then you would come in and immediately have to sit down and
Oh,
just like
it's
breathe and breathe.
yeah, for like 30
And
seconds, and then I would be okay.
mm-hmm,
It's like my lungs would have to catch up to
yeah,
the oxygen that it needed. Like, it was, like, basically, like, not working at the same rate my body
yeah.
was working. So, it was like my lungs were obviously still recuperating. But yeah, that was tough time, crazy time.
I
It
think too.
happened so fast though.
Yeah, and the reason why it got so bad was that he had uncontrolled asthma. That he was I had no idea he was taking his inhaler that often. Like it's like a rescuer, right? You're supposed to only take it like when you need it,
Yeah.
and he was taking it like every hour, and I had no idea until when the doctors were asking him how like often he was taking it. He told them, and I was just like, and then I didn't realize that you could get that bad with asthma. You know what I mean? I had no idea. I've never, I don't have any like conditions like that. I've never really known anybody with asthma. So I didn't realize like, wow, like that is something. So now you take a steroid inhaler in the morning. Did you bring it?
Yeah.
Okay. In the morning and at nighttime, you take that. Um,
And that
but yeah,
helps. It helps.
he,
I think one of the issues before that too was my sleeping. Like, I would wake up with headaches.
oh yeah,
And
that's
I've since the hospital, I hardly ever wake up with headaches. But I mean, the main reason why, and I had no idea this was even a fucking thing, was just the amount of oxygen I was getting throughout the night.
when he was sleeping.
Because there
Yeah.
would be sometimes when I wake up during the night and I would have to take my inhaler because I just felt myself wheezing, and yeah, I just wasn't getting the proper oxygen. And I would wake up with headaches, and it was a bad thing. And I would take medicine. It was so bad. Like, I would take medicine like it was nothing. Every pretty much like 4 or 5 times a
Yeah.
fucking week, and it was
Yeah,
like,
and I again I didn't really realize that because again he was so independent. He didn't really like open up about like things that were bothering him, like mentally, physically, or anything like that.
yeah,
Um, but like I want to say like one of the most beautiful things that I think that had came out of this whole entire experience is so like you've been open about like obviously not believing in God and not being really religious, and like you've been open about that. You've talked about it on the podcast, like you don't really understand it. Um and I've told you, but I since I've met you about 2021, I think that's when we met. I have prayed for you every single night. I have prayed for him. Just that I hope that he finds God, or I hope that, God introduces himself. And I would always pray, like, I hope that I can bring him to God. I hope that I can bring him to the Lord, and that we can go to church and like, cause I believe in God, and I was raised on God, and I go to church, and I would go to church by myself. And so I would just pray for him every single night. And um, after, like, when he had woken up from like the coma and everything, you had said, like, can you pray for me? Can you pray over me? Like, so every night me and your aunt would pray over you. And I remember when you had gone out of the hospital, I remember asking, because it's still like a touchy subject, right? I didn't want ever to force God or religion on you, but I would always just pray that you like found him. And I would always pray that, God, I pray that I bring him to you. I would think that maybe me going to church would influence him, but what I think is so remarkable and so beautiful, and again, this is how I know 1000% that there is a God, is like so many instances and miracles that had happened throughout this journey. Again, I wouldn't have the strength that I had if, it wasn't for him, and the dream that I had gotten, and the doctor coming in, that not even being in that hospital. But I think that something that's so beautiful is like a prayer that you pray. I prayed it for 2.5 years, right? Like when people pray, they expect things to just happen right then and there. Like, oh, I prayed about it and it didn't happen. But like I was saying this prayer for 2.5 years. And when we got out of the hospital, I didn't really even know until I went back to work, and I said, hey, what did you do today? And you said, I watched service. And I was like, what kind of service? Like, what did you watch? Like a YouTube channel? And you were like, no, I watched church. And like, I just was like, oh wow, like that's amazing. Like, I never even like talked about that. So I remember sitting in the car with you one day and I didn't want to like feel like I was pressuring you, but I was um, like after that experience, like, do you like believe that there's a God now? Like, do you still pray? And you had said, yeah, like every single day that I've gone out of the hospital, like I pray every night. And um, we wake up and you've been out of the hospital since like March, right? And it's now June, and every Monday and Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning, you turn on church. And like sometimes it's like not even like I'll be asleep still, and like you will just turn it on and we watch church. And like I think that is something that is so beautiful and like so like crazy because like you didn't believe at all. You know what I mean? And I always prayed, God, let me bring him to you. And I think it's so beautiful because I didn't bring you to the Lord. You know what I mean? Like the Lord brought you to him, And like, I think that that's just so beautiful. And I think that I admire you a lot more because now you're a lot more sensitive and you're a lot more like aware of like emotions, and like the way you are with me is 100% different than obviously before, like.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just like so happy and I'm so proud of the person that you've become. And that's why I say like sometimes it's a really really hard and rocky road, but like the if I get to be with this person with you, I would go through that again. Like, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't
Yeah.
wish it upon you if it never had happened, but I think that it made you into a more remarkable person that you already were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I I think that day after we had the conversation where I was just like I felt hopeless. Like I didn't know what else to I didn't know what else to do. I didn't
mm,
know what else to believe in. Like I couldn't believe in myself because nothing was working. So like that was, as fucked up as it sounds, that was the only option. And I was telling myself, I said, like, I'm helpless right now, and this is like I made a deal. Like I was like, you
mhm,
get me out, and and it's like it's one of those fuck situations where it's like, you get me out, and I'll do everything in my power to believe in you,
mhm,
and it happened. And it was I also was thinking too during that time, it was like, if I get out and it does happen, imagine the amount of stress you're going to be relieved of when you do have something else to believe in. Like you're always believing in yourself, and that's so hard because you're not believing in anything else.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, you believe in your friends and family.
exactly.
I believe in you, but like when you need someone to lean on and it's not working, and you're okay and everything's like, you think everything, like, I mean, after I got out of the hospital, it's a stress reliever. Like you take care of this. Like this is your
Mhm.
job. Like this is like, it's just weight lifted off your after off your shoulders, and it's like it helps me a lot. And
Yeah.
yeah, I pray every night. I
And
pray every morning.
it's so crazy too because I remember having this conversation with you like months before it happened, and I said like I was asking you like, well, like when you're stressed, like you know what I mean, like I love going to church because like worship songs get me through things. You know what I mean? I remember telling you, and you're like, I don't need that.
Yeah,
I can do that for myself. I don't need that. Like I don't need. I don't feel that way. Like if I am stressed out, I'm gonna get myself through it. And I remember talking about like, well, like no, like you give that to him. That's why I'm like. And another
yeah,
thing, like you weren't working, I was not working. Like we had no money coming in, and like I will stand by it when I say like the Lord always provides. And I remember telling you that, and we got through it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I think that's when you started to realize like
It works.
wow, like there is like a God, you know what I mean? There is someone like.
Yeah,
And I just say it's so incredible. It's such a incredible story. And I remember when you were in the ICU, when I started to vlog for you, I remember just being like, why? Like, like why him? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why him? He's such a great person. Like, why all of a sudden this person? And I'm in the shower and it's like Caesar would always like talk to me, like, how do you know that like he would ask the Lord, like, how do I know like you're talking to me? How do I know that you're answering my prayers? People pray all of these things, right? How do you know that your prayers are being answered? Like, how do you know how to ask God these questions. And I remember sitting there just being like, why him? And a thought came in my mind, and I was just like, there's so many people that like reach out to you and say, like, watching the podcast, like you've helped them get through X amount of things. And I was like, this is his testimony. Like the Lord is using him to speak out and be like, I went through this. You know what I mean? Like this happened to me, and I believe now. Like and he turned you into a believer. And like again, that's not something that I did. That's not something that like you being around it did. Like that's something that he did to you, and he brought you to him. And so he's using like, and I was thinking to myself, like one day he's gonna like use you and your platform to like spread his word and like really spread like everything that has happened. And that's it, just it's so incredible. Like
Yeah. Um, Crazy times. I think we might need a part three. But if we don't get a part three, I will say this: I appreciate you more than you know. This was one of the craziest experiences, and I needed somebody, and you were there for me 1000%.
mm,
I think a lot of things happened for good. Terrible situation, but a lot of great things came out of it. And yeah, different person, by far different person.
yeah.
I um I love you so much. I do. I love you a lot. I think I've always have um, tough times, and I'm so glad we're past that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're past that. I don't think I don't think I would I would want to do this with anybody else.
Mm.
I'm so glad it was with you. I'm so glad. I Yeah, I just really appreciate you. I know I say that all the time, but this was a tough time. Tough time. I don't think we're gonna do a part three because my back's hurting and it's getting dark outside. So if you're still tuning in right now, man, this was yeah, do me a
This is where
favor.
we've been for the last 6 months, kind of just like regrouping.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I need to cut this. So
Okay.
I need to end this. But if you're still watching right now, just yeah, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Season 5, August 2024, maybe September 2024, depending on how I'm feeling. I was pretty stressed out doing setting up all this, but man, I appreciate y'all for the past couple years. Season 5 means we're coming up on 5 years of the podcast, and couldn't even fathom, couldn't even fucking fathom. But yeah, I appreciate y'all, man. Until next time, peace.